Hey friends, we're going to go through a series of exercises here that help with both improving hamstring flexibility and also work on some glute strengthening. Those two things tend to go hand in hand. In fact, it's actually pretty common to find that if you have tight hamstrings, you may also have weak glutes. And it could just be that your hamstrings are working extra hard to try to help you stabilize when your glutes maybe need to be picking up a little bit of that slack. So we're going to start, of course, by finding your best standing postural correction, where you've got nose and belly button lining up, hips right underneath trunk, ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over ankles here from the side. And we're going to start by lying down here on your back. So I'm just going to come down to the ground here. So lying on your back here, you want to go ahead and again, make sure you maintain that nice neutral positioning of nose and belly button in a line, that nice equal spacing here. Maybe even try bringing fingertips up to your shoulders. Taking a couple breaths in to create expansion. As you inhale, you're lengthening, expanding, and opening through your curve. As you exhale, you're maintaining that nice pressure and tension. A couple more breaths here, making sure your core is engaged, you're ready to begin. And then we're gonna start with a dynamic hamstring stretch. So you're gonna go ahead and just grab behind your thigh if you can reach. If this is a tough position for you to reach, you can use a towel or a yoga strap to bring behind your thigh, so that way you can keep your back nice and flat on the ground. You don't want to feel like you're sitting up and reaching. You want to be able to keep your back nice and neutral here on the ground. And you're going to straighten your leg up towards the ceiling. You can even pull your toe and point it towards your nose. You might feel a little bit of a stretch through the back of your leg here. You might not be able to get your leg fully straight. That's fine. So we're doing this with movement, because what we're also doing is gliding the sciatic nerve in addition to stretching your hamstrings. And we want to do this gently so we don't aggravate anything. Maybe 8 to 10 times each side, about 30 seconds. We're going for a moderate stretch. You don't want it to feel painful. You want to just feel like you're pushing the envelope just a little bit on what you can do comfortably. And maybe by the end of the 30 seconds, you're going just a little bit further. We'll do one more here, and then we'll switch legs. And then we'll switch to the other side. Same thing, you're going to grab behind that thigh, straighten your leg up towards the ceiling. Move slow with control. You can even think about adding breath to this. So inhaling as you're extending your leg up, expanding and opening through the concavities of your back. Exhaling as you're lowering back down. So that every breath in, you're working on that nice 3D postural correction, creating that equal intra-abdominal pressure that we want through your core. Plus, you're getting some nice hamstring mobility here. And you're just going to what is comfortable. So if you don't find that you're getting your leg fully straight, or you need to maintain a little bit of a bend in your leg to keep your back flat on the ground, that's better. Don't let your hips tilt or your back arch, or find that you're lifting your head to get the leg straight. That's kind of cheating, so don't do that. Just focus on straightening into the range that you can, what feels comfortable to you. We'll go ahead and do one more, and then bring that leg back down. We're gonna reset, so again, make sure you're in your best position here. You've got that good alignment, equal spacing between the top of your hips, bottom of your rib cage. You're nice and long here on the ground or on the mat. Nose and belly button lining up. Maybe take another breath in. Think about moving prominences forward and upward away from the ground, concavities out and back towards the ground. And then we're going to start with some glute bridges here next. So you really want to make sure you do engage your glutes. Sometimes people get cramping with this exercise. If you get cramping in your hamstrings or in your calves, usually that tells you that your glutes aren't engaged as much as we would like, and your hamstrings might be trying to do a little too much. So you're going to take this nice breath in, inhale, expand, open through the concavities of your back. As you exhale, squeeze your core, squeeze your glutes. Just lift up a little bit. I'm not super concerned about how high you lift, more concerned that you're engaging your glutes, that you're keeping that spine neutral, hips level to the best of your ability, maybe holding for a few moments at the top and lowering back down. As you practice this, if you want to go a little bit higher and you can without rounding or arching your back, that's fine. But really, it's all about this glute engagement, glute squeeze that we're after. So we'll do maybe 7 or so more. When you're doing this type of exercise and we're starting to get into a little bit of strengthening, we can think about doing strengthening for endurance and strengthening for power. So if you're doing higher numbers of reps, you're getting a little more endurance. If you're doing lower number of reps at higher weight, you're probably getting a little more strength. We're kind of going for the middle of the road right now with maybe 10 or 12 repetitions. Another rule of thumb I sometimes use is if you're starting to get over 20, over 30 reps, you probably are ready for a little bit harder exercise. So a harder variation of this, if this is feeling really easy and you're almost done and you're thinking, oh, this isn't that hard at all, I could do this, quite a bit longer before I feel tired. One way to make it harder is to try picking one leg up and lifting with just one leg. It's quite a lot harder, so it's a pretty big jump. What sometimes happens is that we lose that ability to keep your hips level here and one hip starts to drop. So try to make sure you're keeping hips level. You might find you can do just a couple single leg bridges on one leg and then switch other side. Maybe you can do a few on the other side. Again, it's a pretty big jump to the single leg bridge. So if that does feel like it's too much of a jump, an intermediate could be to say, come up on 2 legs, float 1 leg, and lower down on 1. So you might say, okay, I'm up on 2, so you've got both legs supporting you on the left, but then only 1 leg is going to control the lowering down. And that might be a way to build towards the single leg bridge. All right, so we're going to go ahead and sit up for a moment here and actually come into a position where we're on all fours. So in this position on all fours, we can also get some nice glute strengthening here too. Make sure you've got your hands right underneath shoulders, knees right underneath hips, keeping that spine nice and neutral. And you're just going to be lifting 1 leg out to the side and then back. So the challenge is to not scrunch through your back. So just a little movement is fine. Think about pushing the floor away, really working to stabilize, lifting that leg out to the side and back down. We'll do a couple more on this side. And then you can try a few more on the other side. If this starts to feel easy, you can add a band around your knees and make that harder. But you really want to make sure you've got that good form first before you make it more challenging, because we're always thinking about that postural correction and the ability to maintain the correction more so than the movement here. So I'm going to come up into standing and just give you one other idea that you can start to work on. So another great exercise for glute strengthening is a deadlift, and these can be kind of hard for sometimes if you haven't done them before to figure out. So I like to start practicing with even just a foam roll or a dowel. And you can use that foam roll or dowel. Find that nice neutral spine positioning with your back neutral, looking straight ahead, slide the foam roll down, your thigh. It's just all about a hip hinge here. So really that's what we're starting to practice, is just this hip hinge movement. Doing it for a little bit of mobility, but eventually, if you're not already, we could do this in a little bit of a deadlift, and I'll share some tips for deadlifting in another video. So right now we're thinking hamstring mobility from this hip hinge, and we're also thinking a little bit of a precursor for being able to do some lifting and glute strengthening too. So you might find as you're practicing this hip hinge, you're getting a little bit of a stretch through the back of your leg. Stay looking straight ahead. I'm not going down very far, so not even to my knees, just kind of sliding, practicing this hip hinge, and then coming back up. We'll do a couple more. Again, make sure spine stays neutral. Looking straight ahead is going to help you avoid rounding through the back. We really want this motion coming from your hips, not rounding through your back. All right, and we'll come back up into standing. Find that best standing position again, and you're done.